There's a saying in our hobby, which is faces and bases make aces. The implication being that a well-painted face and a well-crafted base will have you 95% of the way to a really good-looking model.
And while neither of us can stop you from having the odd brother Clarence, or this guy, in your army, we may have found just the thing to take your basing to the next level.
Welcome to Tantrums and Tabletops. He's Tom, I'm Ben, and in this video, we're going to be looking at new projects, basing your models, and 3D printing. We'll catch you after this. So I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit of a serial project starter, non-starter, forget to start, don't really get it off the ground.
I'm the same.
When Games Workshop released the Lion as a model for Warhammer 40,000, I liked the look of it so much, I thought, I'm going to have to start a Dark Angels army. At the time, that didn't happen. And then when Leviathan came out, I thought, I'm going to take this big pile of new Space Marines and I'm going to start a Dark Angels army. And that still never happened.
Recently, though, a message found its way to Tantrums Towers from Sam at tagmybase.com, asking if we would like to look at some of his custom plates and what armies we use.
So I mentioned that I've got a fairly sizable Space Wolves army and was considering starting a Dark Angels army again. And you also mentioned your armies, right?
I have too many armies. I have Tau, I have Drakari, I have Ultramarines, which are now retired, and I've just started a Angels Resplendent army, which is an offshoot of the Blood Angels with an orange and black base.
So Angels Resplendent, right? So yeah. I'm not familiar with them. So they're a Blood Angels successor chapter, right?
Yes, they are. I was looking for a colour I've not tried before, and I've not tried red, but I noticed the main colour with red tends to be blood, and I wanted to move away from that. The nearest colour to that would be orange.
Nice.
Orange and black kind of go together, and it gives me an opportunity to try some new things with the slap chop technique.
Okay, cool.
Which I've been doing, trying to get a colour that pops, less grimdark and more
vibrant.
Vibrant. I was going to say something else, but vibrant is very good.
So after we told Sam the armies we play, we got a reply saying, okay, cool, you can have some Dark Angels plates and some Tau plates, right? So before we talk about those, let's take a look at tagmybase.com, how the whole process works and what it can do for you. Tagmybase.com is an online platform where you are able to design custom nameplates for your tabletop miniatures using a variety of different fonts, borders and styles to create something that is not only unique to you, but will make your miniatures stand out on the tabletop, on your shelf, or hurtling towards your opponent's head when they wipe you out in turn one in a truly embarrassing way.
The website provides you with all you need to create your tags, and once done, you simply top up your account with either £5, which will allow you to download 20 designs, £20, which will allow you to download 150 designs, or £50, which will allow you to download 500 designs. Once you've created the base plates and downloaded them, you can print as many as you need of each design.
If you don't have a 3D printer of your own, there's a global network of official merchants who can print your designs and then ship them to you. Full details of that service can be found on the website. So while I now had the daunting task of putting my money where my mouth is and actually painting a Dark Angels army, you set about printing the tags with gusto. How did that go?
In the email that was received from Sam, I was given instructions on how to print them, which for people who haven't printed before is really good. I used my own settings because I do quite a bit of printing and there was no failures. It was very straightforward.
So if someone like me was to go and buy a 3D printer, there was a suite of settings that you could use. I remember seeing something about the tags were supposed to be printed, or they're designed to be printed without support. I think I don't know enough about 3D printing, but a support is those little bits of resin or plastic that come up and hold it in place to keep shape, right?
That is correct. Rule of thumb when it comes to resin 3D printing is 45-degree angle and have as much weight off of the main part as possible. And for a 45-degree angle, you tend to need supports.
Right.
So using my own settings, I ran it through Chitubox Slicer, and they were printed within an hour and a half. I'd like to say I use an Elegoo Saturn 8K. It's an older printer now, but it prints really crisp detail, and it's very reliable.
Nice. So how many could you fit on a plate?
I printed 10 at once, but I think I only used possibly a third to half of the build plate space. You could, if you know what you're doing, you can cram them in, depending on your size of build plate, that is. Nice. I've got a bigger build plate with the Saturn 8K. Your standard resin printer would have a smaller build plate, but I reckon you could print 10 rather easily.
So for a full squad, you can do them in one hit. Good to go.
Indeed. I know not everyone has access to a resin printer, and more commonly available is the FDM printer. So I did try to 3D print these nameplates off with an FDM printer. Didn't work.
We can look at that epic fail right now. So I know that when you do print in resin, there's generally some aftercare or some post work that needs to be done, normally like washing, curing, etc. How was that with the tags?
It was very straightforward. I had to chisel the nameplates off of the build plate, run them through a
makes
washing
it sound
cycle.
like fucking massive, saying you have to chisel them off.
No,
a lump hammer and a...
Basically, you are gluing the product to a steel base plate.
Yeah.
And it does require a little bit of force to remove.
Okay.
But if you get your chisel in at one side, you can pop it off.
That action.
Like so. After a quick wash cycle of about 10 minutes, then it's removing the supports at the bottom and running them through a 5-minute cure cycle with UV light. Very straightforward. One thing I would recommend when adding these to your bases, though, is using super glue as the normal poly cement we guys prefer to use. I know you use super glue, Ben. Everyone else seems to use poly cement or the plastic glue. It doesn't work at all. Resin does not work. Resin and plastic does not mix together in that way.
Well, no, the polystyrene cement or plastic glue creates a weld between the two. So
you need super glue for these, definitely. Nice. So with the tags printed and delivered to you, did you finally get round to painting your Dark Angels?
So I have actually started painting the Dark Angels, you'll be pleased to know. But in my infinite wisdom, I thought I'd steer away from the traditional Games Workshop colour scheme of that real deep British racing green and come up with a scheme of my own.
How light green did you go?
Well. So each of the models was given a base coat of Chaos Black from Citadel, and my thought process was I would give each model a first coat of Dark Plum from Monument Hobbies as part of the Ninja signature range. The thought process there being that purple and green are complementary colours on the colour wheel, but after coats of black, green, dark camo green and then standard camo green from varying heights to try and build up the highlights, the purple was kind of lost. So it was a good idea, but it didn't really pay off. So as you can see, the result is slightly lighter than your standard Dark Angel. It's more suited to the salamanders maybe, but you know what? F it. It's my toy soldier and I'm going to paint it how I want. So with the green coat down, the first thing I tried to do was use some Nuln oil, and as you can see, getting to do some recessed shading on all those lines in the armour. Once that was done on some of them, I moved on and thought I'd try and get some of the golds done. So I tried the Vallejo gold from the metal colour range. It should be an airbrush paint, but it goes on really well with the brush. It's quite a pale colour, but I think it works on the models. As you can see here, it pops quite well against the green. For the rubbery, sort of the joint parts of the power armour, I'm using dark warm grey from Monument Hobbies. So for the cloaks and any other cloth parts on these models, I'm using ivory from Monument Hobbies. I think it works really well against the green and really gives that Dark Angels vibe. And then for the red casing on the bolt guns to really give that classic 90s nostalgic vibe, Going for bold Pyrrole Red, again from Monument Hobbies and the Pro Acryl range.
Ben,
Yeah.
you've just done a whole bit about your new hybrid Salamander Dark Angel Kitten Puppy paint scheme. This is supposed to be about tags for bases from tagmybase.com.
Yes.
Where are your tags?
So as part of the process for painting the model, I did have to obviously think quite hard about how I wanted to base them, what the scheme would be, whether it be standard flock, like a grass base, snowy bases, which I've done before on my Space Wolves. So I don't really want to do that again. Something I have done on the short-lived, pun intended, Leagues of Votan army that I had.
Giggity.
Was a desert theme base. And although that army is no longer being worked on, I like the idea. I thought the yellows, the golden tones of the sand would work really well with the green armor. So that's what I went for. So we'll take a quick look now at how I made the base. So when making the bases, the first thing to do is put down a base layer. So I'm using XV88 from Citadel here. It acts as a bit of a primer on the base and gives a good surface for everything else to adhere to later on. Taking some cork boulders from the army painter, some super glue, pushing and holding that down to really make sure it sticks well. Then just applying a thick layer of Grelin Badland from Citadel. It's one of those texture pastes that they have. I have got a video where I review other texture pastes, so you can see that here. And then once that's dry, a really heavy dry brush of Terminator Stone. It's the first coat to go on. Really brings out the ridges where the paint has dried with that texture effect. And then Rack White to really just pop out the finest edges. Ties the whole base together, gives it a kind of a dead, deserty look. Getting some more super glue, just applying some tufts to try and make a little bit more visual interest on the base. It's important to remember to try and theme the tufts that you use. So bright green wouldn't work here, but that scorched tufts from Army Painter was really good. And then finally give yourself a damn good rimming with some more XV88 to tie your base together. For the nameplate itself, again I went back to the Viejo Gold from the Metal Colour range and started off just picking out the letters and those Dark Angel symbols at either end of the base, making sure there was a good solid coat on each. I'm quite a sloppy bugger when it comes to painting, so then some coal black from Monument Hobbies was just used to go in and tidy up any mistakes that I'd made. Next, to try and make a bit of a gradient effect on the letters, I used Rich Gold from Pro Acryl and aimed for the lower parts of the lettering with this, just to try and have that nice fade between the dark, richer gold at the bottom and that lighter gold from Viejo at the top. Then to try and be really clever, jumping back into the Metal Colour range from Viejo, this is the Chrome. And what I tried to do here was pick out the very tops or the sharpest points of the letters, just to really enforce that metallic look and add to that gradient illusion. I think it looks pretty cool. Let me know in the comments what you think. And this is the result. So we spent a lot of time talking about how I've approached this project. What did you do with your tags?
Personally, I'm lazy and use speed paints.
There's nothing wrong with that method though. So what did you do?
I used the tags in the same colour scheme that my Tau are. My base is Goblin Green because it's Goblin Green or go home. And I used the sand, the desert camel scheme for my Tau mixed with a bit of red. So I had green and desert yellow for my tags glued on. Very straightforward, and then just a little bit of Agrax Earthshade over the top to make the Tau logo pop.
Wicked.
Not nearly as pretentious as you.
Well, so Sam has also contacted a lot of other really talented artists to look at these base tags and do some reviews, paint them up however they see fit. And you may not have seen these. I saw them on Instagram today. So we're going to put a selection of those up on screen for you to look at now. This first one from DIFAMINIS, this Blood Angel Terminator, is just amazing. That non-metallic metal effect on the tag is something else. And
why has he come to us when he's got stuff like this out there?
I really don't know.
I mean, look at the teardrop.
Yeah, that gem effect on there. You've got the gradient on the red. That's
sick.
You've got this from BRUSHSMITH UK, Commander Dante.
I love the copper effect where they've got like the aging copper.
That real patina look.
Yeah,
right?
That's it. Thank you. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and it's hard to not just be absolutely in awe by the model itself. But again, on the tag down there, you can see what I attempted to do with my one that looks like it's just been left in the bottom of a septic tank for 6 months. BRUSHSMITH has absolutely nailed it. That's fantastic.
I have a Commander Dante base coated at home that I've been staring at for 2 months, wondering how the hell I'm going to paint it. And now I think I'm going to keep staring at it for another half a year after looking at that.
Next up, we have this from Dave Floorhammer. There's this amazing ultramarine. The paint job on the model, again, is just stunning. Seriously, this is awesome. But again, the base tag looks really cool. The style on there, it's got a bit of weathering, a little bit of patina again. So that seems to be quite a theme on a couple that we've seen.
It does. It's that very grim, dark aesthetic. What I really like about this is it draws your eye, and you're like, you don't normally see a name at the bottom on the bases, so it draws your eye into the name, and then you see more detail in the model beforehand. And you'd see more detail in the model than you would have seen if you weren't paying attention. Yeah. Very, very clever.
Lieutenant Kephius, or Lieutenant, sorry, Jeff from the painting phase, if you watch this. And then from Ghost Cat Mini Art, these Chaos guys, again, just fantastic.
Oh, different fonts. That's cool. I love the different fonts that are used. Just a small selection of everything that tagmybase.com has to offer. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I don't know if, because we've been given an access to the open beta for the website actually goes live the day after this video comes up. So the 18th of June 2024 is when the website goes live.
Indeed.
But there is an open beta test that some of us have been given access to. So I don't know if these artists have designed these themselves or if Sam made them for them like he did for us. Just these examples are fantastic. They really show what you can do with the website and with the base tags.
To truly personalize your army, I mean, everyone knows you're buying the same kind of plastic injected tat. This just adds a bit of you to it.
In a more hygienic way than some people might try.
So there you have it.
I finally started another new army.
About time.
We've both discovered these awesome nameplates from tagmybase.com, and I think they'll add some character and uniqueness to our otherwise unassuming piles of plastic. And hopefully they've inspired you to check out the website as well. If you like the video, please consider giving it a like. If you enjoy what we do on the channel, please consider subscribing. It really does help us out. We're on that slow march to 500 still and becoming Y-list YouTubers.
One day. If you get any nameplates of your own, please let us know down in the comments or tag us on Instagram. We'd love to see how yours turn out.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
I'm a sports personality.